I've taken over 5,700 high ticket sales calls in the last 6 years, closed over 17 million in revenue. And I can tell you things that made me a lead are not what 99% of sales reps are doing. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through the biggest lessons I've learned, and they'll either save you 6 years or cost you six. Objections are never the real objection. It's always a lack of internal certainty or clarity. Until you sell the belief, the close doesn't matter. What a lot of people don't understand is that how much someone believes and how much you believe plays a large part in whether or not the deal closes, whether or not they believe you're bullshitting or not. So you need to make sure that their belief is as high as possible, but also they understand the consequences of not acting. The pitch really isn't what closes, it's that mirror that does. When people see themselves clearly, your job is reflection, not pressure. So your only goal when you're getting objections is to reflect things back to them and help them see the other perspective, that if they don't make a change, if they don't start doing things differently, what is that future that lays out for them? You need to start playing with the identity at a higher level. And when you start playing with identity at a higher level, everything becomes easier. Everything becomes easier because it's just a reflection of them. If they notice that, let's say we're selling weight loss, if they notice that they're fat, they notice that they're not happy, they notice all these different things, their relationships deteriorating, all you're doing is helping them to bring that out and say it and bring it to the surface. And bringing that to the surface invokes the emotion that you need to get someone to get across the line and actually make a change for themselves. So objections are never the real objection. It is just a lack of internal clarity. We need to get them internally and emotionally clear on where they need to be, and everything changes from that point on. Number two runs into the other piece of your identity. You're not in sales, you're running a business. Every no costs you money. Every ghosted DM is a lost lead. Every day without structure is revenue burned. And what that means is as a salesperson, you're only paid based on how consistent you can be. And consistency is the biggest thing. And that means consistency over every area of your life. Anything you say you're going to do, you need to follow through and actually do it. Because if you're just one of the other people where you say, hey, I'm going to think about it, you think those people actually go away and think about things? They don't go away and think about things. They go away and they let the problem aggregate. So the problem just gets worse with more time. And for you, the longer you go without structure, the longer you go with not being able to close people you need to close is another deal loss, another day that you're not successful. You're not the person that you want to be. So just as important as it is for you to hold people to their identity, you need to hold yourself to the identity that you want to uphold. Because without that, you're nothing. And the words that you say mean nothing as well. And if this is already hitting and helping you to think differently, I put everything I've learned into a single system below. It's not for everyone, but it might be for you. And the fourth piece I want to go over, follow up is the most fun you will ever have. It's the one part in sales that actually compounds. And it's not boring. It's making trust with every touch point. I'll actually give you guys a playbook really quick. So when it comes down to me following up with someone, what I do is at the end of the call, if I couldn't close them, they just didn't have the money, they wouldn't move, it was too much fear, and I didn't create enough internal clarity at the top, what I'll do is I'll say, okay, I completely understand. Like today, it seems like and you're not going to be moving forward. Is that correct? Yes, that's correct. I want to give them buy-in because one thing there is I want them to make a decision. And that's what I tell them. I say, okay, and that's okay. But what I do want you to tell me is I want you to tell me no. Can you do that? And then they say, well, no, I'm not going to move forward today. Or they could say something where they feel like you're pressuring them. But the biggest thing is it's not pressure. It's getting someone to make a decision for themselves. And as long as they don't make decisions for themselves, decisions will always be made for them. That's the reframe that you give someone when they won't make decisions. And the same thing goes with follow up. If you're not following up with someone, you're not constantly being that person that's there for them. One, it's money lost for you. But two, that person is dealing with that same problem because you could not help them in the call. So you need to do your duty and actually follow up with that person so they can make the change and become the person that they want to be. I'm a big advocate that your pitch should never be longer than 3 minutes. Okay. Now that might sound crazy to some people, but if you're pitching 5, 10, 15 minutes, or you're pitching slideshows and all this different stuff, you've lost the buyer. They don't care about any of that. All they care about is a few logical pieces mixed with mostly their dream outcome. That's what you're selling. A few logical pieces so they can lock it in with a little bit of certainty that it makes sense, but also the emotional aspect makes sense of the outcomes they achieve. Or if you're B2B, just the numbers make sense. So it's more logical if you're B2B, but you're still mainly talking about the outcomes and you're talking about what outcome the logic provides. That's the end goal with the pitch. And really it shouldn't take you more than 3 minutes to do a small recap. Based on what you told me, I really do think that what we do would work for you. Is it okay if I walk you through how that actually works? Yes. And then basically what you'll do is you'll outline the goal that they want to achieve and the outcome they want to achieve, their dream outcome that they told you up above. After you do the dream outcome, then you're going to list out maybe three or four deliverables that they'll receive, but you keep the deliverable part very short and punchy, but the benefit very high and heavy. And you tie the benefit to what they actually want. Because if your pitch is longer than 3 minutes, it's either you guessing, rambling, or you don't actually understand what they want. And that is a large problem because if you don't understand what they want and you've had a conversation for over 10 minutes, yes, I believe that sales calls really shouldn't, go over 15 minutes for a discovery as well, but that's another topic. Point is that if you feel that you don't truly understand like what problem this person needs to solve, you shouldn't have pitched in the first place. You should have stayed in discovery until you fully understood each piece. And that's why it's important to have an understanding of a framework or a set of questions that you're following, because without that, you're aimless and you're doing nothing and you're going off intuition, and intuition doesn't breed consistency. And that is your job as a salesperson, to be the most consistent person on the market, to be the most consistent person in the room. That should be your goal. The next piece is you're only as good as what you earn. And respectfully, identity, emotion, and empathy, they matter, but money is the scorecard in this game. It's what tells who is doing good, who is doing great, and who is doing terrible, because it is estimated based on how much revenue you produce for the company. If you are not a producer, you are not good. If you are not a producer, you are not good. And it's that simple. If you're closing, 20% and you're only making, 4K a month or something like that, you're not good. You're not, oh, I feel like I have it, but you're just not good, bro. You're either missing the structure, your follow-up game is weak, or identity wise, you're not the person that you need to be in sales. And to change that, you have to do hard things. And what hard things are, it varies for people to people. I'm not saying you have to go to the army or fight in a war. What I am saying is you have to challenge yourself to do things, because every time you're on a call, what you're doing is you're challenging a buyer. What do you have to challenge a buyer if you cannot challenge yourself to make a change? That's really how you have to look at this. And that's why I keep reiterating sales is all about identity. If your identity is not in tandem with what you're trying to sell or who you are, it's just not going to work and you're never going to be successful. Which also, when it comes to success, that kind of leads me to my next point is your calendar is your number one weapon. And if you actually want to be successful, more calls equals more chances to grow. And nothing fixes skill like controlled reps under pressure. And you already have the pressure to perform because you're already probably getting threatened because you're not hitting KPIs. I've been there. But more calls give you more chances to grow. And nothing fixes skill like controlled reps under pressure. So you need to give yourself as many reps as possible. If you are terrible, if you're not doing good, you need to give yourself as many reps as possible, but with a proper structure. Because if you don't have a proper structure, again, you need the consistency. But your goal should be, I'm going to get as many reps in as possible. What that means is you're doing follow-up. You're doing follow-up, you're asking for referrals, but also you're following up with the no-shows, you're pulling meetings forward. And what this means is every hour that you're working, you're actually working. You're not doing the thing where you get off a call, you sit there, you meander around. Every hour that you're working, you're actually working. Okay. There's no time to chill, there's no time to relax. It's only time to act because you're only paid based on your outputs. And realistically, we can dial that down and just say you're only paid based on your inputs, because the more inputs you do, the less chance you have of having another 4K month, the less chance you have of making $2,000 in the month. The more chance you have of making $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in the month, the more that you do, the more activities that you do. So your goal is to be the most active person on that team, no matter what. The reason why I say that your calendar is the number one weapon is because the more money you have, the better you'll sell. If I looked at your calendar right now for the past 3 months, I could tell if you were booming the last 3 months or if you were absolutely broke, because I could see your activity on your calendar. And if you don't call block, if you don't do all these things, I know you're not a very structured person, which also means you're probably not very good at sales. No offense. I was bad. It took these things to help me change. I don't mean to offend you. But the reason I say the more money you have, the better you'll sell is scarcity clouds our tone, energy, and decisions. And abundance gives you control, calm, and creativity. These are like yin and yang. All right. If you have scarcity, it ruins a lot of the calm because all you can think about is I need to make money. I need to do something so I can support myself, so I can support my family, and it's painful. Now, getting out of that is the previous tip. It's maximizing your calendar to make sure you're doing as much as possible to get out of this situation. Because I'm telling you, well, you get off, you get on YouTube, you get off, or you go watch a TV show. That's not going to help you get better. One, and two, that's not going to help you to change your financial situation. So here's a few tips that I can offer. Let's say one of your calls doesn't show up. If you're just well, you're going off and you're not doing anything, that's wrong. The first thing you should be trying to do is pulling up the appointment that you have next and saying, hey, I just had a call not show up. Would you want to push our call forward and kind of, so I can help you a little bit earlier? Something like that. And I'm not texting this. I call that person. I have them get on the Zoom call or the Google Meet. That's how you run that. And if that person doesn't want to pull their meeting up, you know what you do? You go through the pipeline of people that you haven't closed. And if you haven't closed them, what you want to do is you want to obviously reach out to them with a refined process. You're not running them through your original sales process again. What you're going to do is this. It's been around 2 weeks or so since we spoke. I was just curious how you were doing in terms of XYZ goal. You really just keep it simple. Like follow up is not hard, but it's extremely profitable. Follow up can bring you in at least another $20,000 to $30,000 a month. The biggest thing with follow up is a lot of people are scared of rejection again. They've already been rejected by this person. They don't want to, go out to them again and ask for something again when they've already been rejected. But that's the fun part. Rejection is the most fun part of sales because if they were going to say yes anyway, you are not needed. What are you there for? That is your job, to deal with no, to deal with I can't, to deal with all these things. That is your job, to figure out a way to help this person solve the problem that you're both facing, because it's not just their problem, it's a problem that you both face and a problem that you both need to overcome. But when you help that person solve that problem, everything becomes so much better for them. That is the mindset you need to look at. So if someone tells you no, it doesn't matter if they said no. It doesn't matter if they said no. Let's keep going, because if there's an inkling that I think that this person can actually receive help from this, or this would actually work for them, I'm going to fight for them tooth and nail, because I'm going to fight for them tooth and nail, and the money doesn't matter at that point. And what I want you to understand is, like, the money shouldn't matter at a certain point. It should be, I need to help this person because they have a genuine problem. Or like when I was selling weight loss, right? They have a genuine problem. This person is 40 pounds overweight. They had a stroke 2 years ago. Their family, they have no energy to be with their family. These are real serious things. And if you put yourself in that person's shoes and you just think about how a day is for them, that will help you not to care about rejection. That will help you not to care about no, because you don't care about the no more than you care about helping the person. When you start caring about no's more than you care about helping people, that's when you start to become ineffective as a salesperson. Where you go past no, it shows where your beliefs are, and it shows you where your weak spots are as well. I think it says more about you, what you do when no happens. When no happens, you don't shut down. When no happens, you don't say, oh, that's okay. Try that, on your own. When no happens, that's when your job starts. That's when you really start to lock in and you really try to make a change for this person. And I want you guys to understand something. When you're selling, you don't sell products. What you sell is your belief. What you sell is your conviction. What you sell is your belief in this person to make a change for themselves. That's what you sell. That's what you're there for. It can be scary to spend a lot of money, and you should understand that. If you don't understand that, you have not spent enough money on trying to get better at things. But what I'll say is, it can be very scary to spend a lot of money. You need to come at that with empathy, but you also need to understand the consequences if they don't spend this money. No one cares about features. They care about what buying says about them. The buyer's brain needs both the dream outcome and the regret of not doing it. They need to have both those things in tandem because they work in force. They have something they can run towards and they have something they can run away from. That's the strongest lever of motivation, because once you tie what they're running towards and what they're running from as an identity they're running towards, an identity they're running from, it becomes a lot more dangerous because no one wants to identify with bad things. So that's why knowing how to play with identity and ascribing these different labels is extremely helpful. You need to utilize both. And to put it simple, what changes if they win and what changes if they don't win? And a free tip is, give value to the people who don't close. Do a 2 week check-in. I always book in 2 week check-ins with them at the end of the call. I say, hey, is it okay if I check in with you 2 weeks from now, just to see how you're doing? Yeah, that's perfectly fine. And if that at that 2 weeks, if you're not doing any better than you are right now, what would you like to do at that point? Oh, I think I probably, like to sign up. Well, why's that? Oh, because of this, and this. Okay. And are you sure XYZ is the only thing stopping you from going for it today? Okay. And is there no way you'd be able to resolve that so that we could get you to XYZ place and you could finally be XYZ person? Just things like that. and you give them a free document, a free call. That's my 2 week check-in process, but a free document, a free call. The fortune isn't just in the follow-up, it's in the care that you take and what you give to these people. Okay. The moment they hit you, that is a lead in your business. That is a lead in your business. That's how you need to think about it. And if you wouldn't buy what you're selling, don't sell it. Like you can't, if you don't believe in what you're selling, don't sell it. Like you can't fake conviction. Like you can genuinely tell when someone truly believes in something, and when they truly believe in something, they will fight for it tooth and nail to make sure that that person gets to where they need to be. But if you guys like this video, check out this video where I talk about what 91% of closers don't do and when they continue to stay broke. And it's kind of simple, but you'll never guess what it is.